So this morning I'm going to make gluten-free, dairy-free pizza bases. We have to make our own because we can't seem to find any that are any good. This is something that I've been doing for a while. My partner's got 12 food allergies, so I have to make everything from scratch. I like to do these bases on a cooking stone, so a pizza stone. And if you put a base like this on a pizza stone, it's just going to fall to pieces unless it's frozen. So if you leave it out for too long, then it's going to all fall apart. If you're going to do this straight into like an oven tray, it's fine to just stick straight on there and actually put it out straight on there and shape it straight onto the tray, and then stuff it in the oven. When you put your oven on, you just want to have it on really high. I use a pizza stone on the barbecue. I just find it to be a nice hot temperature which you need for pizza. First thing I'm going to do is put the oven on very low because we want to proof the pizza and make it rise. I'll just put that on very low. Once I've done everything else, I'll turn it off and just have it warm in there so the dough rises. So we're using rice milk rather than your lactose free or anything like that. You can use lactose free milk, but I'm allergic to dairy, so So we have 2 cups. I've actually got a recipe that I do follow that I've written up in my big book of recipes, which is a lot of it's just modifying things so that we can actually eat it. I'm doubling the recipe. Because I freeze them, it's always good to have a pizza base there ready to go. So I'm going to put 2 cups of my rice milk, and I've got all the ingredients out. Looks like a bit of a mess over there, but it doesn't really matter. So we've got 4.5 teaspoons of yeast. So we sprinkle the yeast in. 4.5 teaspoons on top. So you sprinkle on top, sits on top of the milk at this stage. We want to get that warm. So we just want it to be lukewarm. You can do this beforehand. So now we've got caster sugar, so we've got 5 teaspoons of caster sugar. So sprinkle that in as well. Not as important to have that sitting on top. That's 5. That's probably already warm. I'll use my testing finger just to see whether it's warm. Still got a little bit to go. Give it a little bit of a mix around. Just want it with a fork. And we want to turn that off when it's warm. Just lukewarm is all we need. So that's warm now. Just take that off the heat. We leave that for about 5 minutes until you start to see the yeast bubbling. So you'll see it sort of foaming in there. I'm going to spin the camera around this way, so follow me around this way to the other end. So there's a lot of light coming through here. We basically have over here we have the beach. I do most of this to the mixing bowl. So I have a scale here. We'll just zero that out and we'll mix it all while that's foaming away over there. So once again I'm doubling, so we start with 200 grams of tapioca, so that's my measurement, 200 grams rather than 100. I'm just going to talk in my measurements because it's easier that way. That'll be all of that and a little bit more. Then we have the same with rice flour, so 200 grams of rice flour. Then we have 440 grams of plain gluten-free flour. So a lot of that, so we take it up to 840 now. 840. What I'm going to do now is just pop this into the mixer, just to give it a little bit of a mix the flours together. Just turn that on just to give it a little bit of a mix around. While that's happening, I'll grab myself 2 xanthan gum. So xanthan gum is pretty much the key to making dough stick together. So if you're making pasta or anything like that and you're making gluten-free pasta, you've got to have xanthan gum. So 2 teaspoons of xanthan gum. So while that's mixing around, just throw in a couple of those. 2 teaspoons of salt. And mix it in pretty well now, so I'll just turn it up a little bit. See how the foaming's going over here. It's still warm, so it still needs a little bit longer. You can see in there, starting to foam up. Whilst that's mixing around, just throw in 2 eggs. Can crack these separately into a bowl first if you're worried about shell or testing your eggs to see if they are off or anything. What you want to do after this is to pour in your milk. Just give it a bit longer to foam up. Pour in your milk, and there's only one other thing to do, which I'll prepare now. 4 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. 4 teaspoons, sorry. 4 teaspoons. So just in a little, you can do it in a little bowl. I'm just doing it in a measuring cup. 2, 3, 4. And then you'll want a teaspoon of baking soda. Just going to wash off that because it reacts with this apple cider vinegar. So we don't put this in yet, we want this for later. I'll just prepare it now. Now we want to get our hopefully nicely foamed. You got the bubbles sort of forming on top there. And we just slowly tip that in. So just a little bit at a time. Probably even if you wanted to ladle it in, maybe with a tablespoon. Just give it a little bit at a time. Crank it up a little bit, or just a slow pour, which I'm going to probably slow pour. Oh, don't turn up too much. There's everywhere. Starts to work harder and harder, kneading the dough. Might as well pour the rest in, so it's done. Just wait till that takes shape. It'll be pretty obvious when it takes shape. Everything's mixed through. Haven't got long to go. So you can probably sort of do this for around 5 minutes. It doesn't really matter if it's had a little bit too much. The only problem will be your mixer might be working too hard. So once it's mixed enough, we'll just take it out. You can do this by hand if you don't have a mixer. It's just easier, obviously, to stand here rather than mixing. So I'll show you what we've got here. Just get rid of that off there. So quite firm there. Stick it back in, give it a little bit more mix in. And as we're doing that, we're going to get our apple cider and baking. Baking soda, mix that in, and it'll bubble away. All very foamy. Look. And just pour that in. Just checking the oven's nice and warm, and I'm going to turn the oven off now. So that's mixed through. Once again, clear that off. You can form this into a ball If you want, you can just throw it straight in the oven just to rise. I'm going to coat my fingers in a little bit of flour, just so the dough doesn't stick to me, and just push it into a little bit of a ball. It will be wet because of the baking soda on the outside. Just form it into a ball and wipe your hands all over the towel, and then stick the towel over. Stick that in the oven. You don't want to have the oven on anymore, so just have it nice and warm so that it'll rise. And you don't necessarily close the oven, so I'll just stick an oven mitt in the door and leave it open a crack. So that's in the oven now, and now we leave that for half an hour. So I'm not going to stand here and bore you for half an hour, so I'll edit this later.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
So it's been about half an hour, and we'll go see how the pizza dough looks. There we go. So it's just probably about doubled in size. They say it's supposed to have doubled in size with pizza. It's thereabouts. I'm just going to do one of these. I'll show you, and then I'll turn it off because you don't need to watch me do the whole lot. Flour my hands a little bit. Get some baking paper. You do these whatever size you want. So just grab a handful of dough, and need more flour. Bit of flour on there, and make it into a pizza shape. Add some flour when you need it, so you don't want it to stick to you. And we just make a pizza. I usually make small ones because my partner and myself, we have different things on our pizza. She has ham, which has no nitrates in it, which we try to save that for her. So I make small ones, probably even smaller than that. That'll be leftovers for the next day as well. But yeah, just make them whatever size you want. If you do share a pizza, make a big one. So this is twice the dough. Once I've done that, so twice the dough, so I'm going to probably fill up both of these containers, and I'll just have them in the freezer and cool out when we need them. So that's it, just in there, and I'll do the cooking of the pizza later on when tomorrow night actually. So fill those up, and that's it. Easy.